All right, I have something really depressing to talk to you about. And no, it has nothing to do with my sweaters this week, which I saw the comments. 54% of Americans read a book in 2023. Just one or more, okay? So what this means is that 46% of Americans, that's almost half of Americans in 2023, did not read a single book. This is a cultural issue. This is an educational issue. This is, I believe, a political issue. I believe this is an economic issue in many ways. Let's look at the data first and foremost. If you take a look at this, 46% of Americans overall said they read no books at all. No books at all. Obviously, I don't think it will surprise you. If you didn't go to college, you're even less likely to have read a book. If you did go to college, you're more likely. But the general numbers are 46% of Americans read no books. That includes listening, okay? This includes audiobooks. You then have a bunch of people, like 25% read 1 to 5 books, 10% read 6 to 10 books, about 8% read 11 to 20 books, and about 10% read more than 20 books. This is a real cultural failing in the United States right now, okay? Now, I don't know where my audience falls on this. I know that there are some readers in my audience, but this is both a cultural failing and a failing at the individual level, I think. So on the individual level, if you regularly read, you have more knowledge because you have access to books on all sorts of different subjects. And by the way, you don't have to buy books. You can borrow books for free at public libraries. Tons of books are now out of the, I guess it'd be out of the copyright phase. I don't know if I'm using the right term, but the books are essentially open source. You can download them for free, ebooks of all kinds. Enhances imagination and hypothetical thinking, boosts brain function, reduces stress, improves empathy. So at the individual level, it's hard to find a better walking and reading, right? Walking and reading. At the sociocultural level, having a culture in which reading is more common and encouraged promotes literacy in general, which is crucial for societal progress, fosters community through book clubs, literary discussions, etc., preserves culture because we learn about so much of culture, past and present, through books, can encourage social change by getting people to think critically. This is, by the way, both fiction and nonfiction. Boosts economic growth. The more literate a society is, and the more that reading is a common activity that people turn to, improves innovation, economic development, makes people better equipped for all sorts of jobs. And so I know I've mentioned before my list of 6 or 7 low-hanging fruit, walk 8,000 steps a day. And I've talked about this, get 150 minutes a week of at least moderate intensity exercise, reduce processed foods, get 30 grams a day of fiber. Reading is right up there, okay? Even if it's 2 pages a day instead of 0, you will get through books and be in, the 10% of Americans that are reading that amount. And if you can read 2 pages a day, it takes about a minute a page. It's 2 minutes, okay? 2 pages a day. Well, maybe you can read 5 pages a day. Maybe you could read 7. So for a lot of people, it's way easier to pull out a phone and to scroll TikToks or Snapchats or Instagrams. And I get that, but you've got to make it a habit. And the best way to make it a habit is to have interesting books lying around. If I know that in the next room, I have 4 books I'm in the middle of, all of which are interesting in different ways, I'm much more likely to make that a habit rather than pulling the phone out. And so if you don't know what to read, for nonfiction recommendations, go to davidpakman.com/recommendations. I've got books on economics, personal finance, narrative nonfiction, science, all sorts of different things. There's got to be something for you in there. Okay, davidpakman.com/recommendations. For fiction, I mean, there's so much with fiction and so many subgenres, and I've talked about many fiction books. Right now, for fiction, I'm reading. I'm committed to doing it. I'm reading some Proust, or do people say Proust now? In Search for Lost Time. It is dense, but I am reading it and enjoying it, in part because of something I'll tell you in a moment. I also, this is like a fun read. I recently finished watching the Bosch TV series, so I got curious about the books by Michael Connelly. I picked up the first one, which is from 1992, the first Bosch novel. Super, it's a page turner, enjoyable in many ways. Nonfiction, I'm reading a book about how to read Proust, and I'm finding it is super useful in getting more out of the actual In Search for Lost Time. I'm reading, for nonfiction, Selwyn Rabb's book. It's huge, huge book. I've been reading it for a while, about the oranges of the Italian mafia in New York. Really good book. I grabbed Jared Dillon's new personal finance book. A bunch of people said they had read it. It's not bad. And I also am almost done with David Brooks's book, The Second Mountain, which I find interesting as well. So there's always interesting things to read. Think of any scenario where you won't benefit from reading 12, 15, 20 books a year. Socially, if you're regularly reading interesting stuff and other people aren't, who's going to be a better conversationalist? Who's going to be able to relate to other people on more topics? The person who's reading. At work, if you're reading and becoming more informed about different things and your coworkers aren't, not only can it help you be more engaged and competent with the work, it makes you more enjoyable to be around. If you're parenting and you're reading 12, 24, 36 books a year, you will be more equipped to parent, more creative, more empathetic, more imaginative, more able to answer the endless why questions that kids start to ask. So the numbers are horrifying. Almost half of Americans read 0 books last year. Just read 3 books and you'll already be ahead of what? 65% of what Americans are reading. If people in the audience are against book reading, like Andrew Taint, who said he doesn't read books, let me know. I would love to know why.